Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching the Political Vigilante. Look at that. Look at the truth rise up. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. Ooh, we get still demonetized month 3 of no ad revenue, no super chats, no nothing from YouTube. So please support us in many other ways. Patreon.com/Graham Elwood. You get a bunch of great bonus content if you sign up there. Rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. You get amazing premium content. We have a members only live stream every Monday night on Rockfin, Graham's Late Night Crypto Lounge, Monday night, 8 o'clock Pacific time. You can watch the archive of all the live streams. It's a great way to support the show. And the other thing I like about Rockfin is that it's blockchain and they pay us in cryptocurrency. I've been talking a lot about cryptocurrency, really mainly since last summer. And as I've gotten more educated about it and learned more about it, I'm seeing like it is a potential hedge against inflation. It is a potential safety net if the economy collapses, because there's a lot of signs that the economy is collapsing. We had Max Keiser and Stacy Herbert on the show last week. Please watch the full interview. I also broke it up into clips. Please watch that because it's really informative. And a thing I've been talking about on this show for a long time is there's been a bunch of financial bubbles before the pandemic. Real estate, commercial real estate bubbles. I've been talking about that for several years because that's what all these financial experts are saying. Well, and I'm going to show you what Max Keiser and Stacy had to say about this. Credit Suisse execs out as bank takes $4.7 billion hit from hedge fund collapse. It's starting. It's starting. And I'm going to, Max, I just watched their most recent episode. Their most recent episode was like, oh, watch out. It's starting. Because this is the sign. This is the kind of the things that started to happen in 2007. When a lot of, including Max and Stacy back in 2007, were like, ooh, watch out. A lot of people were like, uh-oh, it's all the credit, right? Remember, it was the credit was the problem. The over-leveraged credit was the problem. We have that same problem. These are all the bubbles we're talking about. There's all this these big hedge funds have all this over-leveraged credit, right? The significant loss relating to the failure of the U.S.-based hedge fund is unacceptable, CEO Thomas Goldstein said in a statement. Serious lessons will be learned. Credit Suisse remains a formidable institution, blah, blah, blah. So I want to play for you what they said on the most recent Keiser report and why it's significant and why you should be paying attention.
Hi, I'm Max Keiser. This is the Keiser Report. You know, a lot of people speculate whether or not God exists or not. I'll tell you one thing that I can guarantee does not exist. Financial regulators. Stacy.
Right. I mean, it's beginning to look a lot like 2008 to us. We were around and reporting back then on the beginning of the global financial crisis, which we believe is still kind of ongoing. But at that time, of course, it was in around the same time of the year, March of 2008, where Bear Stearns had 2 hedge funds that collapsed and set in motion what would later, 6 months later, become the global financial crisis when Lehman Brothers also collapsed. You're starting to see that again. The debt crisis has risen again, you might say. Bill Hwang of Archegos, his fund collapsed in a spectacular fashion with a massive margin call, up to about $30 billion margin call he received. And it looks like he's really impacted. Not only did like Viacom CBS fall by like 27% as all his shares had to be sold off by the counterparty banks, but the banks themselves, like Credit Suisse, have been hit. Credit Suisse warns in pre-market statement of a highly significant hit to its first quarter results after it began exiting positions with a large U.S. hedge fund that defaulted on margin calls last week.
So do we play this as a tragedy or a comedy? You know, that's always the question. If I go tragic, that would be one way to go down the tragedy path, or I could go down the comedy path. Either one, or there's tragicomedy. There's a big mix of both. if I go down the tragedy path, things could get woolly.
So the first time was tragedy. We covered that in 2008. This time is comedy because it's the second time. So if it happens again in the same exact way, the same exact manner, that happens over and over. The first time our financial system almost collapsed was back in the 90s with long-term capital management. Remember them? That's when the Fed intervened to rescue one single hedge fund. Here we have the same sort of situation. And again, just like 2008, again, remember I said that the financial crisis has risen again, and that is it went through Europe because what happened was huge amount of leverage using something called contracts for difference, which are illegal in the US, but are allowed in Europe. So nevertheless, it impacted US markets hugely. Here are the complex bets at the heart of the unprecedented Archegos linked $30 billion margin call. Losses that triggered the liquidation of positions approaching $30 billion in value bring to light complicated financial instruments used by European investors that effectively are banned in the United States, but still have spillover effects domestically. So-called contracts for differences were at the heart of some of the massive wrong way bets made by Bill Hwang's Archegos Capital Management. Max, you know, because you used to be an options trader. So CFDs are the kind of derivative instrument that allow traders to place a directional bet on the price of a security without actually buying or selling the underlying instrument. It works much like a futures contract, say an index. The buyer and the seller agree on the price of a transaction sometime in the future at the end date or earlier if they decide to unwind the position beforehand. Only the difference between the actual and the agreed price will be settled. If the price went up, the seller pays the buyer the difference and vice versa. So you're able to do this with putting down very, 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 very little on the actual bet.
There is structurally no difference between a contract for difference play and a roulette wheel. Okay, there's structurally absolutely no difference. When they say directional bet, okay, it's either red or black. And that's part of a roulette wheel. Then you could leverage it almost with an infinite leverage because remember, money is free because you've got 0% interest rates if you're an insider. And so that would be a number on the roulette wheel, like number 27. And so you're making hundreds of millions of dollars or billions of dollars in the bet. They spin the wheel. And here's the great thing. If it doesn't come up the color that you want it to come out, or it doesn't come up the number that you didn't want it to come up, you get to go to the cashier and they pay you not only how much you lost back in cash, but they give you 10 times more. Mm-hmm. And they say, you got to go back to the roulette wheel and try it again because you are systemically important to the global economy. Without recidivist banking terrorists like you over at Credit Suisse and all these other banks, then how will we out in the Hamptons be able to buy this yacht next month? That's systemically important. How would we be able to justify these 0% interest rates that by definition, by provable cause and effect, A plus B equals C, when I make that face, it usually gets nasty, right? So I don't know whether to go, it's tragic or it's comic. David, I was just looking at some clips of that movie Margin Call, and it's a Hollywood movie based on this exact event having been played out now several times. It's become pantomime. It's such a trope now that every 10 years they go through the machinations of this global financial crisis brought on by regulators, brought on by rogue traders that hit a fat finger trade and accidentally triggered a multi-$100 billion margin call. Then send in the devil, the villain with a twisty mustache. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll print $15 trillion. And then some mop-haired, short-haired, white-haired witch like Janet Yellen's trotted out in front of Congress and then Jay Powell appears with his top hat. And I'm Jay Powell. I'm from the 20th century, and I'm here to tell you that this is absolutely normal. It goes on like that again and again and again and again.
Well, let me intervene, Max, because I do believe that it is continuing as a comedy. This time around,
I just want to add real quick. He talks about recidivist financial terrorists. That's how he refers to these people, and he's right. Because he used to be in that world, so he knows it. Like recidivist financial terrorists. That's what how else would you describe every 10 years they destroy the world and they're given free money on top of it so they can maintain their homes in the Hamptons? I mean, like, that's why I have such respect for Max Keiser, because he was in that world, right? He was a stockbroker. He knows all this stuff. He was at the parties. He went to the Hamptons. He sees how it's really run. He sees how people like Janet Yellen are just, she was paid $1.7 million in speaker fees, not because Credit Suisse and Citibank and these other companies needed her information. They're buying influence. They all know the same stuff she knows. They don't need, it's like a room full of football coaches hiring, some ex-NFL coach to talk to them. No, they don't need, they know how it works. So I just wanted to point that out and let them finish.
It is comedy. It is hilarious. And the reason why it's so much more hilarious this time, the first time was tragedy back in 2008 and 2009. And the reason was because Bitcoin had not yet spread mass around the world. There was no safe haven for ordinary investors, ordinary people to save themselves from this financial system, which was corrupt. This time around, it's comedy. We could laugh, saying to them, have fun staying poor, because we have Bitcoin, and millions of people around the world now have Bitcoin. And, while these people play their crazy games, and the central bank will bail these people out, sovereign nations will bail these people out. Back in 2008 and 2009, Credit Suisse got injections from, I think it was the Qatari sovereign wealth fund and the government. So they'll have to be bailed out. Some suckers, taxpayers, inflation, everybody will pay for these suckers in the fiat world. But this time around, we have Bitcoin. And I want to say, like, the CFD situation, the Market Watch article interviews a former SEC regulator, Amy Lynch, who says about them that they are extremely risky, is how she characterized CFDs, as kind of like being able to go into a naked position, she said, referring to naked bets where investors use derivatives to gain exposure to an investment without owning the underlying asset. So the markets are naked. They've been exposed as having no clothes, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Former regulator. No active regulator.
No active regulator will say that openly. They won't warn you about this, especially at that sort of level where it's like a major bank like Credit Suisse. They're allowed to get away with these things, and they just get to say, oops, sorry, our bad. We'll save everything. We'll print more money, and it all goes away. But this time I'm saying it's comedy, Max. I am laughing. I'm laughing hard inside. I might not be laughing right now and you can't see it, but I am laughing so hard inside that I could just watch these people like a car crash. Like, it's just like, okay, this is like a clown car crash, right? It's just like cars filled with clowns, overfilled with clowns crashing into each other in that fiat banking system, which is so corrupt now.
Right. It's funny. It's also funny when people suggest that Bitcoin's going to be regulated. And you hear that from academics and talking heads on TV all the time, like, we're going to regulate Bitcoin, as if they regulate any market right now, that they're not just basically, it's pay to play in the regulation field, right? You pay for the laws, you pay for the rules. And, we've got over $1 trillion now to pay any regulator we need. It's not going to be regulated. There's no regulation going on now.
Well, there is, and that is, these are legal in Europe. These CFDs are legal in Europe. These people can engage in this. It's illegal in America, but the bankers in America want these illegal things to be illegal, to continue legally in Europe, so that they could destabilize the system any time they want. Because every time you see it over and over and over, look at the wealth and income gap across America. It goes up every single time there's a crisis. So it's in their benefit to there's no.
We've been saying for many years that America outsources its financial illegality to Europe, particularly the city of London, where they have things like infinite rehypothecation. Yeah. And that loophole hasn't been closed for the very reason that it needs to remain open to allow for these fraudulent activities.
Again, so you have the system that has recovered. I remember on the front page of all the U.S. mainstream newspapers and magazines, they were like, Lloyd Blankfein and Jamie Dimon are heroes, and they saved the system, and they're gods. And Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen and Ben Bernanke saved the system. So we'll see what actually saving the system has meant. And it's part of that CFDs. It's part of the explosion in leverage that has happened. That we know for a fact the actual economy, manufacturing, wealth creation has not increased at all since 2000, right? So what is this all based on? And if you're going to have these hedge funds like Archegos collapse and possibly take down the system, like how fast will it all spiral, right? Because that guy's leverage, of course, collapsed him. He doesn't have to pay any of it. His company doesn't. He'll still be a billionaire. It'll be all these banks, which will eat the cost, but the banks then give it the cost to the regulators, the central bank, the taxpayers, and all that stuff. So in the United States, February Finra margin debt up $15.1 billion month on month to $813.7 billion, a new record. It's up 69.8% from last March's low. That S&P 500 is up 81% during that period. All good, except it is easy to forget during good times that margin debt cuts both ways. We are witnessing live the dreaded side of margin calls. The collapse of Archegos triggered turmoil on the U.S. markets as the likes of Viacom, which is in many pension funds across America, collapsed by 27% as those trades unwound.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's tough at this juncture to understand if this is supposed to be, or we're supposed to be sad or laughing. You don't really know. It's a psychodrama. Right, a psychodrama it's weirdly funny, but also weirdly tragic at the same time. The people in charge have given an unlimited credit line to the most psychotic, recidivist kleptocrats that human history's ever known, and they're just standing back to see what happens. And predictably, they're destroying the global economy and driving Bitcoin to $500,000 a coin.
It's basically this time around the 2021 financial crisis, and it'll go through 2022, 23. It's the Monty Python version of the 2008 crisis. And because we're all going to be laughing, and it's going to seem as ridiculous as and amusing as any Monty Python sketch.
I can hardly wait for the next huge hedge fund to blow up and for Bitcoin to go up to $250,000. Stay tuned for more after this. Don't go away.
So I wanted to show you that because having them on the show, and I watch their show a lot, obviously. You see why I've been saying as I've gotten more knowledgeable. And again, if you're like, Graham, I don't get it. I was there a year ago. I was like, with the pandemic had just hit, we're canceling tour dates. We weren't sure. Maybe we'll be back on the road by the fall. We didn't have about. And I was scrambling. We were all scrambling. And I was like, man, I'm going to need this Rockfin. And I started talking to them over the summer and June and really paying attention and started watching all these shows like Keiser Report and Altcoin Daily and the Moon and Crypto Casey and now BitBoy Crypto and Boom Bust. We had Christy I on the show a couple times last year. We had Rosie Tran on the show a couple times. And so I was like, okay, this is important. And now you're really seeing why. And it's a thing I talked about last spring when the first CARES Act came out. And I said, watch out. It's going to be used as a money grab because I got screwed over in the last financial crisis. I was one of the 6 million people who had their homes taken away. And I didn't want that to happen to you. And so that's why this whole year I've been like, pay attention and you're not too late for buying Bitcoin. And take 5 to 10% of your assets. Even if you're like, Graham, I only got, $1,000 in the bank, buy $100 in Bitcoin. Because I just did the video last week that was submitted, thankfully, by Lauren D'Alessandro, who's submitted great stuff over the years, mainly about financial crises and bubbles and stuff like that. She's really sent us a lot of financial stuff. You remember that video I just did last week about FHA loans? 17.5% of them nationwide were close to foreclosure. They were behind. That's the national average. In about 10 to 20 cities, there's at least 10 cities or so. I outlined some of them where it's like 20 to 25%. So you've got that housing bubble that we've been talking about that's been exacerbated by the pandemic. Now there's low houses available on the market, so the prices have gone way up. But when all these people are like got to either foreclosure or just go short sale or just go, we're going to sell the house, then there's going to be a glut and the housing market's going to come down. We've got these hedge funds that Stacy and Max and everybody are talking about that just imploded. And Max just said at the end of the segment, oh, another hedge fund's going to bite the dust. This was what was happening in spring of 2008. It's starting. So get a little bit of Bitcoin, just 5 to 10% of your assets, man. Just put 10% of your assets in Bitcoin. Go to bitcoin.com, just learn more about it, educate yourself. Don't gamble with money you can't afford. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you, this is the writing on the wall, and they are big Bitcoin proponents because they see how corrupt they've been working inside this corrupt system for decades. And that's why they're just like, we're done. And they're trying to educate people. So it's starting. And they said the financial crash, is going to go into 22 and 23. And I told you this, last year in comparison to the Great Depression, the stock market crashed in September of 1929, and the Depression wasn't really felt till like 1931, 1932. So we're now in the second year of everything getting shut down. And sure, we're going to open up, but you can't print trillions of dollars and not have inflation. You can't have whole industries get shut down for a year. So, and then these illegal, as he calls them, psychotic kleptocrats are given endless streams of money, and they're doing awful. They're evil. They don't care. These kleptocrats, these oligarchs, they don't care if you are on the street. They don't give a shit. The federal government will bail them out. They don't care. So listen to people like Matt who know way more. I'm not a financial. I got a film degree from the University of Arizona, and I'm a club comic, but I'm smart enough to listen to people that know what they're doing. And I'm not going to get burned this time like I got burned last time. And I don't want to see any of you lose your home or your assets or anything like that. So look at your own personal financial situation. Everybody's situation is different, but just put something in Bitcoin because the price is going to keep going up. It's going to keep going up. So thank you for supporting the show. Like, share, subscribe. Protect yourself and your family from this inevitable financial crash that is coming. It's coming. So, and go to bitcoin.com. They have a YouTube channel and they have a Bitcoin 101 playlist, and just watch that and learn about it. And sign up for one of these exchanges. I have affiliate codes with crypto.com and BlockFi, even Coinbase, which I don't, Max Keiser said they're bad faith actors. I get that they're super easy to understand, but just do a little research, put a little money in there and hang on to it, because when the fiat collapses, when the boomer casino collapses, the boomer casino is the stock market, when all these corrupt kleptocrats bottom out the economy again and get bailed out again by the money printers at governments like America and other countries that are monetary sovereigns, they're just going to print more euros. They're going to print more Aussie dollars. They're going to print more US dollars. They're just going to print more and just print. And it's going to cause inflation, and you're going to be prepared. So thanks for watching. Shave your knuckles for justice. Follow the money. Connect the dots. That's where you get the truth. That's what Max and Stacy are doing in the financial world, because they came out of that world. That's why you come watch this show. That's why you want to be informed and not listen to CNN go, the stock market's doing great. 900,000 jobs were added. Okay. Because when the ruling class bottoms out the economy, they'll get taken care of. And they won't care if you're living on the street. They won't care if you're in a food line. They won't care. They won't care if you got to foreclose on your home. They won't care. They don't care. So protect yourself. Whatever you got to do, get knowledgeable. Knowledge is the first form of protection. Don't just be at the mercy. I wasn't knowledgeable enough 10 years ago. I wasn't as knowledgeable. It's my own, some of that was my fault. They're evil. And I trusted, Obama, I voted for him. He'll regulate this. Bush was the bad guy. That's what I thought. Obama's stimulus will be better than Bush's. Nope. AOC's not going to save you. Bernie's not going to save you. Ro Khanna's not going to save you. The Squad's not going to save you. Tulsi Gabbard's not going to save you. None of these people are going to save you. Tulsi's not even in office anymore, so it doesn't matter. Nobody. The Progressive Caucus isn't going to save you. They're not going to save you. Are you a red state voter? Lindsey Graham's not going to save you. Mitch McConnell's not going to save. They don't give a shit. They're already taken care of. They work for the kleptocrats. They work for the ruling class. All the people making 7- and 8-figure incomes at CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and Fox Business and CNBC and Bloomberg TV, they're millionaires who are paid by billionaires to tell you everything's going to be fine, knowing full well you're going to get screwed over. The average American's going to get crushed. And Bitcoin is the first thing in the history of the human race that average people can buy in. It's not some corrupt stock tip. So when it goes to 250,000 and you bought it 60,000, you're going to make money. You're going to make money. So I don't want any of you to go through what I went through. I don't want you to lose your homes. I don't want you to go through that. Bankruptcy, foreclosure, it breaks up marriages. It causes suicides. It causes people to drink. It's awful. It's awful. And the kleptocrats do not give a shit. So get knowledgeable, protect yourself. And if you can, buy a little Bitcoin. Shave your knuckles for justice. Boom. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Go to patreon.com/Graham Elwood and rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where you can support the show. Also, I have a Bitcoin wallet, a Bitcoin Cash wallet, and an Ethereum wallet in the show notes. We're taking cryptocurrency. I have a Coinbase affiliation link. We're going to be getting on some other exchanges. So that's how you support the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. YouTube is unsubscribing us at an alarming rate. I have a PayPal button at grahamelwood.com. I even have a Venmo at Graham-Elwood. There's a lot of ways to support our show. We are getting crushed by YouTube. We've dipped under 73,000 subscribers because of YouTube. Thanks for supporting what we do.